He laughed at the woman who raised him, ashamed of her worn-out uniform and calloused hands. But what he didn't know was that the same woman he mocked held the power to change his entire life with a single signature. Destiny was waiting, and it was wearing a cleaner's apron. The city of Darvale woke each morning in noise and light, engines rumbling, horns blaring, and street vendors shouting over the smell of roasted maize. But before the first rays touched the glass towers, one woman was already awake. Nia Okoro tied her faded scarf, slipped her tired feet into cracked shoes, and whispered a short prayer. Her small apartment was dim, the walls whispering with old paint and memories. On a rusted table sat a picture of a smiling boy, her only son, Malik. Every morning she looked at that photo and smiled back, whispering, "One day, my son will live the life I never had." Nia was a cleaner at Skyline Holdings, one of Darvale's most powerful corporations. Her job was simple: scrub the floors, polish the glass, and make the offices gleam before the men in suits arrived to claim the glory. But there was something nobody at Skyline knew: Nia was more than a cleaner. She was the silent investor who had helped the company survive its earliest storm. Her shares were hidden behind a management trust, only 2 people in the world knew the truth. She liked it that way. Humility had kept her safe. The world respected the wealthy, but it rarely saw their hearts. And Nia's heart still beat for her son. Malik was everything she had sacrificed for: young, handsome, educated, and fiercely ambitious. She had sold her wedding jewelry to pay his first-year tuition. She had worked double shifts to send him new clothes so he would never feel small among the rich. Every bruise on her palm was a dream laid at his feet. But success has a way of making children forget the hands that built their wings. When Malik graduated with honors in business management, the entire neighborhood celebrated. Nia cooked for everyone: fried plantain, spicy jollof, grilled fish. The landlord danced, the women ululated. Malik smiled and thanked them all, but inside, a new feeling had begun to grow: pride. He told himself he would never live like his mother. He would never smell of detergent or wear patched clothes. He wanted the skyline, not the slum. A week later, Malik landed a dream offer: junior analyst at Skyline Holdings. When he came home with the news, Nia clapped her hands, tears flooding her eyes. "Ah, my son. Look at God. You will walk where great men walk." Malik hugged her stiffly. "Yes, Mama. I told you I'd make it." He didn't notice how she smiled with quiet knowing, the kind that comes from secrets too deep to boast about. The night before his first day, Nia ironed his shirt carefully. The heat from the coal iron filled the room as she brushed imaginary dust off the fabric. "Malik," she said softly, "remember to stay humble. Life rewards those who bow before it." He laughed. "Mama, humility doesn't pay bills. Hard work and smart people do." She said nothing more. Sometimes silence teaches where words fail. Morning came wrapped in golden light. Malik stepped out in a crisp navy suit, shoes shining like mirrors. Nia stood by the door, waving, her eyes misty with pride. When she reached Skyline that morning, she went straight to her duties: mopping corridors, polishing brass, watering the tall indoor plants. She moved quietly, listening to the hum of the elevators and the smell of fresh paper. The walls of this company held her secret life. Years ago, when the founder had been on the edge of bankruptcy, she had lent him her savings, money from small cooperatives, friends, and every coin she owned. In gratitude, he had made her a silent partner. The papers sat locked in her drawer at home. She never told Malik. She wanted him to succeed on his own, not from inheritance. At exactly 8 a.m., Malik arrived at the same building, walking tall among interns and analysts. The revolving doors caught his reflection, a young man ready to conquer the world. But fate loves irony. Across the polished lobby floor, bent on one knee scrubbing a faint coffee stain, was his mother. Her scarf slipped a little as she looked up, her face lighting with joy. "Malik, my son, you're here." Her voice echoed warmly in the marble hall. A few heads turned. Malik froze. For a second, pride and shame wrestled inside him. He saw his new colleagues watching, their suits crisp, their eyes curious. He managed a tight smile. "Ah, yes, morning," he muttered and quickly walked toward the elevator. She followed with her gaze, still smiling, whispering, "God bless you, my boy." The doors closed before he could look back. That night, Nia returned home with aching feet and a heart heavier than her bucket. She replayed the moment again and again. Maybe he hadn't heard her properly, she told herself. Maybe he was just nervous. Mothers always find excuses for their children. But destiny had only started its lesson. For in that same building, under those same shining floors she scrubbed, her son's arrogance would soon meet the truth she had buried for years. And when that day came, Darvale City would whisper the name Nia Okoro not as a cleaner, but as the woman who owned the empire her son worshipped. Before we continue, tell me in the comments, where are you watching from? Globe showing Europe Africa. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to African Heart Tales. Now, let's return to the story. The next few days at Skyline Holdings were like a dream for Malik. He wore his suit like armor and carried confidence in his stride. The mirrored walls reflected not just his face, but the life he always wanted, clean, sharp, untouchable. He had no idea that humility was watching him from the corners of the lobby, wearing a cleaner's apron and a tired smile. Every morning, Nia arrived before dawn. She swept the corridors, dusted the desks, and often paused by the elevator Malik used, whispering a silent blessing over it. "Carry my son safely," she would murmur, pressing her palm to the shining metal. But Malik never saw her. He avoided her floor whenever he could. When he did see her, he looked the other way. His heart told him to greet her, his pride told him to hide. Pride won every time. One afternoon, the HR department sent out a memo, mandatory cleaning inspection before an international audit. Every employee was to ensure their workspaces were spotless. Malik grinned. "Finally, some order in this place," he told a colleague. He didn't realize his words would soon turn to ashes. At 5 p.m., while most staff prepared to leave, Nia entered the top floor with her cleaning cart. The floor glowed golden under the sunset, the city skyline gleaming through the tall glass windows. Malik and a few senior staff were still there, working on presentations. As she approached, humming softly, Malik saw her reflection in the glass. His stomach tightened. "Oh no, not here, not now," he muttered. But fate doesn't ask for permission. Nia reached his desk, smiling. "Malik, my dear, you're still working late. Let me wipe your table quickly, it won't take." He interrupted sharply. "Mama, please, don't call me that here." His voice rose. Several heads turned. His manager, seated nearby, glanced up curiously. "What did you call him?" one coworker asked, half smiling. Malik's face flushed hot. "Ah, she's just a family friend. She helps around my area." The lie stung his tongue, but he forced a laugh. Nia froze. Her hand trembled slightly as she lowered her rag. "Family, friend," she whispered. Her heart cracked quietly, like porcelain under strain. The manager smiled politely and returned to his work. The other colleagues chuckled softly, gossiping in whispers. Malik pretended to type on his computer, refusing to meet his mother's eyes. She stepped back slowly, holding the edge of her cleaning cart for balance. "Of course, sir," she said softly, her voice trembling. "My mistake." Then she turned and walked away, her footsteps echoing down the hall. That night, she came home late, her hands shaking as she tried to cook. The rice burned, she didn't notice. She sat by the table, staring at Malik's graduation photo. "Maybe he is right," she whispered to herself. "Maybe I am not good enough for his world." But mothers rarely stay broken for long. After a few tears, she folded her apron, placed it on the chair beside her, and whispered, "I will not let bitterness teach my son. Life will." Meanwhile, Malik sat in his apartment, scrolling through his phone. He saw a short video on social media, a wealthy man crying at his mother's grave, regretting how he had treated her. He watched for a few seconds, then swiped past it. "Drama," he muttered. "People love to exaggerate." Yet, something tugged at him, a strange unease, a guilt he couldn't name. He tried to bury it under reports, phone calls, and city lights. The following week, Skyline Holdings buzzed with excitement. Rumor had spread that a mystery shareholder, one of the company's founding partners, would be visiting the headquarters for a leadership review. Nobody knew who it was. The staff whispered theories: a foreign investor, a retired banker, maybe even a political figure. Malik's manager gathered the team. "Everyone must be on their best behavior tomorrow," he said. "The visitor has significant authority, our company's future depends on her decision." Malik grinned. "Her decision," he repeated. "So it's a woman?" The manager nodded. "Yes. A very private, powerful woman. Her name's been kept confidential all these years. The board calls her Madame N." The name sparked something faint in Malik's mind, but he ignored it. That night, Nia sat at her small desk at home, opening an old wooden box. Inside lay her life's secrets, documents, certificates, and one thick envelope with the company seal, Skyline Holdings, private share agreement. She smiled sadly at the signature, her own. "I never needed the world to know," she whispered. "But perhaps, it's time my son learns the truth." She folded the paper carefully and slipped it into her bag. The next morning, the building buzzed like a hive. Security guards straightened their uniforms, executives rehearsed greetings, and even the reception smelled of fresh roses. Malik stood proudly in the lobby, clipboard in hand, eager to impress whoever this Madame N was. He didn't notice Nia entering through the staff door, not in her cleaner's uniform this time, but in an elegant navy suit. Her headscarf was replaced with a silk wrap, her face calm, graceful, and radiant. She took the private elevator, the one few even knew existed, straight to the executive floor. Malik's manager leaned close. "She's arrived," he whispered. "The boardroom is ready." Malik adjusted his tie. "I'm ready too." But destiny was smiling quietly, for in that boardroom sat a truth so sharp it could cut through years of pride. A truth that would soon turn Malik's world upside down, and reveal the real face of power, sacrifice, and unconditional love. Malik adjusted his tie once more, watching his reflection in the polished wall. His confidence was back. He had rehearsed his presentation twice, each word smooth, flawless. This was his chance to prove himself, to show he belonged among the powerful. But destiny had other plans. The elevator dinged softly. Heads turned. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. A woman stepped out, tall, elegant, dressed in a navy blue suit. Her movements were calm, graceful. Her face carried a quiet strength that made even the senior executives stand straighter. Malik's breath caught. There was something achingly familiar about her, the curve of her smile, the warmth in her eyes. But his mind refused to believe it. The CEO walked forward with a smile. "Madam Nia Okoro," he said respectfully. "Welcome back to Skyline Holdings." The room fell silent. Malik's world tilted. "Nia Okoro," he whispered under his breath. It couldn't be. No, it mustn't be. She walked past him calmly, greeting the staff with soft nods. Her steps made no noise, yet each one thundered inside Malik's chest. When she reached the head of the table, she turned slightly, her eyes meeting his for the first time. "Mr. Malik Okoro," she said gently. "I hear you've been doing excellent work in the analysis department." Her tone was warm, but her gaze was sharp. Malik froze. He couldn't move, couldn't breathe. His mind raced. "Madam N. Mama, my mother." The CEO clapped his hands once. "Please, Madam Nia, the floor is yours." She began to speak. Her voice was calm, steady, filled with quiet power. "Many years ago," she said, "this company faced ruin. There were debts, lawsuits, and no investors willing to risk their money. But sometimes, help doesn't come from where you expect, it comes from hearts that believe even when the world doesn't." She paused, letting her words sink in. "I was just a cleaner back then. People looked through me, not at me. But I saw something worth saving here. So, I used what little I had to keep Skyline alive." That small act grew into a partnership that still stands today. Gasps filled the room. Executives exchanged glances, whispering. Malik's mouth went dry. He could feel everyone's eyes bouncing between him and the woman speaking. Nia continued, turning her gaze slowly toward him. "I stayed silent all these years, not because I was ashamed of who I was, but because I wanted to see whether success would make people humble, or proud." Her words hit like lightning. Malik looked down, shame burning through him like fire. She went on, her tone softer now. "Somewhere along the way, even those closest to me began to think wealth defined worth. They forgot that dignity is not in what we wear, but in what we do when no one's watching." The room was silent enough to hear a pen drop. Malik's manager shifted awkwardly, realizing who the cleaner from last week had been. When the meeting ended, people began to clap, hesitant at first, then thunderous. Nia smiled politely, thanked them, and excused herself from the room. Malik followed her quietly down the corridor, his chest tight, hands shaking. "Mama, wait." She stopped but didn't turn around immediately. "So now you remember I'm your mother," she said softly. Her voice wasn't angry, just tired. The kind of tired that comes from years of carrying both love and disappointment. Malik swallowed hard. "I didn't mean to, I didn't want people to think." She turned, eyes glistening. Didn't want them to think what? That your mother's hands were too dirty for your world. He tried to speak, but his voice cracked. I was ashamed, Mama. I'm sorry. She stepped closer, her tone gentle but firm. Do you know what shame truly is, Malik? Shame is not in the dirt on your hands, it's in forgetting the hands that raised you. Tears welled in his eyes. I was wrong, he whispered. I thought success meant leaving where I came from. Nia's expression softened. She touched his cheek with trembling fingers. No, my son, success means lifting where you came from. If you rise alone, you fall empty. They stood in silence for a moment, mother and son, pride and humility finally meeting halfway. Outside the glass windows, the city glowed like molten fire. It was as if even the sky bowed to this moment of truth. Malik wiped his eyes. Mama, will you ever forgive me? She smiled faintly. Forgiveness is easy, my son. It's forgetting that's hard. Then she handed him a small envelope. Inside was a document, a transfer of shares. I'm giving you this, she said, not because you deserve it yet, but because I believe one day, you will. But never forget who you are. Never again. Malik stared at the paper through tears. Mama, I don't deserve this. You're right, she said quietly. But neither did I, when life gave me a son like you. We both learn, Malik. We both grow. Later that evening, when most employees had gone, Malik walked through the empty corridors of Skyline. He stopped where his mother had once knelt to scrub the floor. He could almost hear her humming again, that same gentle tune she always sang when she worked. He knelt down and touched the polished tile. I'm sorry, Mama, he whispered. And thank you. From the upper balcony, Nia watched quietly. A tear rolled down her cheek, not of pain this time, but of pride. He's learning, she murmured. Finally learning. That night, the city lights looked different. The same towers that once made Malik feel small now reminded him of something deeper, the strength it takes to build, the humility it takes to rise. The next morning, the office buzzed with whispers. Everyone now knew, the cleaner was the secret owner, the woman everyone overlooked was the hand that built Skyline Holdings. And Malik? The proud young analyst was her son. He walked through the same glass doors, but something inside him had changed. The echo of his shoes sounded different, softer, slower, like every step carried a prayer. Gone was the arrogance in his stride. Gone was the suit and tie pride. What remained was a man learning to walk with humility. He stopped near the lobby where his mother used to scrub the floor. He could still see her there in his mind, bending down with a rag in hand, smiling through her exhaustion. He whispered, I'll make it right, Mama. That evening, Malik requested a meeting with the board. They were surprised. The same young man who once spoke with swagger now spoke with sincerity. I owe an apology, he said firmly. To my team, to this company, and most of all, to the woman whose hands built the ground I walk on. He paused, scanning their faces. For years, I thought success meant standing above others. But now I know, real success means honoring those who helped you stand at all. The room fell silent. Even the CEO nodded slowly, his respect visible. Later that week, Malik organized something special, a Founders Appreciation Day at Skyline. He insisted it be held in the same lobby his mother once cleaned. The employees gathered, cameras flashing, reporters waiting. And there she stood, Nia Okoro, elegant yet humble, wearing the same warm smile that once lit up the dim corridors. Malik took the microphone, voice trembling slightly. Today, we celebrate a woman who taught me that greatness isn't inherited, it's earned through sacrifice and love. For years, I tried to forget where I came from, but she never forgot me. He turned to his mother, eyes misty. Mama, this company isn't just yours, it's a reflection of you. Every wall, every tile, every soul you touched. I'm proud to call you my mother. Applause erupted. Cameras flashed. Nia's eyes filled with tears, but she smiled through them. I forgive you, my son, she whispered softly as he hugged her. You finally learned the true meaning of worth. From that day on, Malik worked not as the boss's son, but as a servant leader, kind, patient, grounded. He launched scholarships in his mother's name, built training centers for women in need, and always told her story, not to boast, but to remind the world that greatness often wears the face of humility. And every time someone asked Nia how she managed to forgive so easily, she would simply say, because love never keeps score. It only teaches. Time has a way of softening sharp memories and turning pain into wisdom. For Nia and Malik, the wounds of shame and pride became the roots of something stronger, a legacy. Months passed, and Skyline Holdings thrived under its new leadership, a mother's wisdom guiding a son's ambition. The company no longer felt like a cold tower of profit, it pulsed with heart. Every morning, employees would see Nia walking through the halls, not as a cleaner, not even as a boss, but as a symbol. She greeted everyone the same way, with warmth and kindness. And every time she passed a janitor, she stopped to smile and say, "Thank you. I used to stand where you stand." Malik watched her from his office one morning, pride glowing in his chest, but this time, it was the right kind of pride. He had learned that leadership was not about power, it was about service. One weekend, they returned to their old neighborhood, the narrow streets, the dusty courtyards, the laughter of children chasing plastic balls. People recognized them instantly. "Nia. Malik. You've come back," they cheered. She waved, laughing softly. "Of course. This is home." Malik turned to her as they walked past the small market where she used to buy soap and kerosene. "Mama, after all you've achieved, why do you still come back here?" She looked at him, eyes filled with warmth. "Because, my son, you can't plant trees in the sky. You must always keep your roots in the soil that raised you." Later that day, they hosted a small community event, free meals, music, and storytelling for the children. Nia told them stories of patience, honesty, and hard work, her voice gentle yet commanding. Malik watched in awe. The woman who once scrubbed floors now inspired a generation. When it was his turn to speak, he stood before the crowd and said, "I once thought my mother was just a cleaner, but now I know, she was building an empire of character. And I want every young person listening to remember, never measure success by what's on your body, but by what's inside your heart." The crowd clapped, some wiping tears from their eyes. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Nia and Malik sat quietly by a small fire. The flames danced in her eyes, reflecting years of struggle and triumph. "You've made me proud, my son," she said softly. "No, Mama," he smiled. "You made me possible." They laughed gently, the sound carrying into the warm night air, a sound full of healing and hope. In life, wealth can fade, fame can vanish, and power can crumble. But a mother's love and a humble heart are treasures no storm can steal. If this story touched your heart, tell us in the comments. Where are you watching from? Globe showing Europe, Africa. And if you believe that humility and love always win in the end, tap like, share, and subscribe to African Heart Tales for more stories that heal, teach, and inspire. Because every story we tell is a heartbeat from Africa.